The first ICC Men's Cricket World Cup was won by West Indies in 1975, which was hosted by England and was held on the 7th of June to the 21st of June 1975 in England. The number of teams was 8. The first contestants in the Men's World Cup were England, India, New Zealand, East Africa, Australia, West Indies, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. The number of overs per innings was 60 and the number of matches was 15. Teams were divided into 2 groups of 4 each. Each team played the other 3 in their group once, with the top 2 from both groups advancing to the semifinals. The team first in Group A played the team second in Group B, and vice versa. The first Men's World Cup final was contested between West Indies and Australia at Lord's. West Indies captain Clive Lloyd was the star on that day. Keith Boyce and Bernard Julian's half-century for the 7th wicket stand helped to boost West Indies from 209/6 to 291/8. The top run scorer of the tournament was Glenn Turner with 333 runs and top wicket taker was Gary Gilmore grabbed 11 wickets. The 1979 Cricket World Cup was officially called as Prudential Cup 79, organized by the International Cricket Conference, and was held in England from 9 to the 23rd of June 1979. The tournament was once again sponsored by the Prudential Assurance Company and had 8 teams participating in the tournament, with the only change being Canada, who qualified with Sri Lanka in the qualifier for the tournament. The format remained the same, with 2 teams qualifying from each group, with the final once again being at Lord's. West Indies finished top of Group B ahead of New Zealand, and England won their semi-finals over Pakistan and New Zealand respectively in Group A. England met in the final at Lord's, with the West Indies defending their title from 4 years earlier with a 92-run victory. West Indian batsman Gordon Greenidge ended the tournament as the leading run scorer with 253 runs from 4 matches, with English player Mike Hendrick ending up as the leading wicket taker with 10 wickets. The 1983 Cricket World Cup was officially called the third Prudential Cup 83 of the Cricket World Cup tournament. It was held from 9 to the 25th of June 1983 in England and Wales. India won the World Cup. 8 countries participated in the event. The 1983 World Cup was full of remarkable cricket all through the tournament. Teams like India and Zimbabwe, who were not playing well during those times, scored triumphs over the West Indies and Australia respectively. England, Pakistan, India, and tournament favourites West Indies qualified for the semifinals. The preliminary matches were played in 2 groups of 4 teams each, and each country played the others in its group twice. The top 2 teams in each group qualified for the semifinals. The matches consisted of 60 overs per innings and were played in traditional white clothing with red balls, and all matches played during the day. David Grower of England became the leading run-getter and scored 384. Roger Binney emerged as the highest wicket-taking bowler and took 18 wickets, whereas Mohinder Amarnath was awarded the Man of the Match award for his sparkling performance in the finals. He made 21 valuable runs and took 3 important wickets. The 1987 Cricket World Cup, also officially known as the Reliance Cup 1987 due to sponsorship reason, was the 4th Cricket World Cup. It was held from the 8th of October to the 8th of November 1987 in India and Pakistan, the first such tournament to be held outside England. Nothing was changed except the number of overs was changed to 50. The competition was won by Australia for the first time, that defeated their arch-rivals England by 7 runs in the second most closely fought World Cup final to date in Kolkata's Eden Gardens Stadium. The 2 host nations, India and Pakistan, failed to reach the final after both being eliminated in the semi-finals. The West Indies also failed to advance from the group stage. Graham Gooch of England scored 471 runs in the tournament and became the highest run scorer. Craig McDermott of Australia took 18 wickets and became the highest wicket-taking bowler of the tournament. David Boone scored 75 runs in the final and was the man of the match. The first hat-trick in Cricket World Cup history was taken by Chetan Sharma, and Navjot Sidhu hit 9 sixers during the Tournament of India and 4 50s in consecutive innings. The 1992 Cricket World Cup was the 5th performance of the Cricket World Cup organized by the International Cricket Council. It was held in Australia and New Zealand from the 22nd of February to the 25th of March 1992 and finished with Pakistan beating England by 22 runs in the final to become the World Cup champions for the first time. Martin Crowe of New Zealand was the player of the series as he scored 456 runs. While Wasim Akram was the highest wicket-taking bowler. He took 18 wickets, out of which 3 were in the finals against England. He also added 33 runs to the team's total. He was given the Man of the Match award in the final. The 1996 Cricket World Cup, also known as the Wills World Cup 1996 after its official sponsors ITC's Wills Brandon, was the sixth Cricket World Cup, organised by the International Cricket Council. It was a second World Cup to be hosted by India and Pakistan. Sri Lanka defeated Australia at Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore and captain Arjuna Ranatunga lifted the trophy. Gary Kirsten scored 188 runs against the United Arab Emirates at Rawalpindi. It became the highest ever individual score in a World Cup. Sachin Tendulkar of India scored 523 runs and became the leading scorer of the 96 World Cup. Anil Kumble took 15 wickets and topped the bowlers list. The player of the series was Sanath Jayasuriya of Sri Lanka as he scored 221 runs and took 7 wickets. The man of the match was Aravinda de Silva of Sri Lanka for his century in the final. The seventh edition of the World Cup was officially called as ICC Cricket World Cup. The host for the World Cup was England, but some matches were played in Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and the Netherlands too. The final was at Lord's between Australia and Pakistan. Steve Waugh lifted the trophy as Australia became world champions for the second time. For the first time, the permanent trophy was introduced and was designed by Paul Marsden of Garrett & Co. in London. Rahul Dravid of India scored 461 runs in the 99 World Cup and topped the batting charts. While in bowling, Jeff Alott of New Zealand and Australian Shane Warne both took 20 wickets each. Lance Clissoner of South Africa was the player of the series as he scored 281 runs and took 17 wickets, and Australian Shane Warne was man of the match in the finals as he bowled out 4 batsmen in the final. The 8th edition of the ICC World Cup was co-hosted by South Africa, Kenya, and Zimbabwe. In this tournament, 14 teams participated. The final was played at the Wanderers Stadium in Johannesburg between Australia and India. Australia won its third World Cup title and second in the row. Ricky Ponting was the skipper of the Australian team. Sachin Tendulkar of India was the player of the series. He scored 673 runs and took 2 wickets. Chaminda Vaas of Sri Lanka was the highest wicket-taking bowler. He took 23 wickets. The man of the match in the final was Ricky Ponting for his brilliant 140 runs not out. West Indies hosted the ICC Cricket World Cup for the first time. It was the 9th edition of the tournament where 16 teams had participated. It had the highest number of participants in the history of the World Cup. The final match has played between Australia and Sri Lanka at Kensington Oval, Bridgetown, Barbados. It was the second appearance of Sri Lanka against Australia as they had previously met in the 1996 World Cup final. Australia won its 4th World Cup title and 3rd consecutive title. In the finals, Adam Gilchrist scored 149 runs and became the highest score by any batsman in a World Cup final. One new record was made: Australia 29 won consecutive World Cup matches without a single loss. After Clive Leod, Ricky Ponting became the second captain to lift the World Cup trophy twice in a row. The leading run scorer of the 2007 World Cup was Australia's Matthew Hayden, scored 659 runs in the tournament. Glenn McGrath was player of the series as he took 26 wickets. The man of the match was wicketkeeper Adam Gilchrist for his century in the finals. He became the second Australian after Ricky Ponting to hit a century in the World Cup final. India, along with Sri Lanka and Bangladesh for the first time, jointly hosted the 10th edition of the ICC Cricket World Cup. The Stumpy was the mascot. The final match played between India and Sri Lanka at Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. It was for the first time that 2 Asian nations clashed in the World Cup final. India became the first host nation to win the title. Mahendra Singh Dhoni is the only captain in the history of cricket who has won all the ICC trophies: ICC World Cup, ICC Champions Trophy, and T20 World Cup. After 1992, it was for the first time that Australia did not make it to the final. Mahela Jayawadene became the 5th batsman to hit a century in the World Cup final. Tilakaratne Dilshan of Sri Lanka has scored 500 runs and the leading run scorer in the tournament. Indian seamer Zaheer Khan and Pakistan's leg spinner Shahid Afridi took 21 wickets each. Yuvraj Singh of India was the player of the series for his all-around performance and made 362 runs and took 15 wickets. The man of the match was Indian skipper Mahendra Singh Dhoni. The 11th edition of the ICC tournament was hosted by Australia and New Zealand. Australia won its 5th World Cup title captained by Michael Clarke. They defeated New Zealand at Melbourne Cricket Ground, Melbourne. The concept of the Super Over was reinstated in January 2015 in case if there was a tie in the World Cup finals. West Indian Chris Gayle was the first to score a double 215 runs against Zimbabwe, the fastest in the world, and the New Zealander Martin Guptill became the second. He scored 237 runs against West Indies. New Zealand's Martin Guptill scored 547 runs. Trent Boult of New Zealand and Mitchell Starc of Australia took 22 wickets each. The player of the series was Mitchell Starc as he took 22 wickets. James Faulkner was the man of the match for his all-round performance. He made 36 runs and took 3 crucial wickets. The 2019 ICC Cricket World Cup was the 12 editions of the tournament organized by the ICC. It was hosted between the 30th of May to the 14th of July across 10 venues in England and a single venue in Wales, with this tournament being the 5th time that England had hosted the World Cup, while for Wales, it was their 3rd. This tournament was being contested by 10 teams with a decrease from 14 teams in the previous edition, with the format of this tournament changing to a single round-robin group with the top 4 teams qualifying through to the knockout stage after the 6 weeks of round-robin matches. India, Australia, England, and New Zealand finished as the top 4, while Pakistan, missing out by net run rate. In the knockout stage, England and New Zealand won their respective semi-finals to qualify for the final at Lord's in London. The final ended in a tie after the match ended with both teams scoring 241 runs, followed by the first super over in an ODI. England won the title, the first, on the boundary countback rule after the super over also finished level. Indian cricketer Rohit Sharma ended the tournament as the leading run scorer with 648 runs from 9 matches and 140 against Pakistan at Old Trafford. Australian bowler Mitchell Starc ended up as the leading wicket taker with 27 wickets, which surpassed the record set by Glenn McGrath in 2007. Kane Williamson was awarded as player of the series. Ben Stokes was awarded man of the match.